It was a warm summer evening when our group of friends decided to visit the old cemetery. We'd heard rumors and ghost stories about the place, and we were all curious to see if there was any truth to them. At first, there were about 6 of us, all laughing and joking as we entered the graveyard. But as the night grew darker, some of our friends got spooked and left, leaving only me and Jake behind. As we continued exploring, the atmosphere became eerier. The wind rustled through the trees, creating an eerie symphony of creaks and groans. The full moon cast an eerie glow over the tombstones, making the shadows dance around us. We were brave at first, trying to outdo each other with ghost stories and daring each other to venture deeper into the graveyard. But as we wandered further away from the entrance, the laughter started to die down, and a sense of unease settled in. That's when we saw him, the mysterious figure lurking between the graves. At first, we thought he was just another visitor like us, perhaps paying his respects to a loved one. But as we got closer, we could see that there was something off about him. He was dressed in tattered clothes, his hair disheveled, and his eyes were so haunting. They were empty, like the lights were on, but nobody was home. He seemed lost, disconnected from reality. We tried to speak to him, to ask if he needed any help, but he didn't seem to notice or understand us. It was like he was trapped in his own world, muttering to himself incoherently. It was unnerving, to say the least. And then, the chilling moment came. He turned to face us, and that's when we saw his smile. A smile that sent shivers down our spines. It was a smile devoid of any warmth or kindness, a smile that made us feel like prey being eyed by a predator. At that moment, we knew we had to get out of there. Our instincts kicked in and we turned on our heels, running as fast as we could. We didn't look back until we were outside the cemetery, catching our breath and trying to make sense of what we had just encountered. We called the police to report the strange man we had seen, but by the time they arrived, he was nowhere to be found. They searched the entire cemetery, but there was no trace of him. It was like he had vanished into thin air. The police assured us that they would keep an eye on the cemetery and investigate further, but they couldn't find any leads or evidence of the mysterious man's identity. It left us feeling unsettled and haunted by the encounter. In the days that followed, we couldn't shake the feeling that we had stumbled upon something otherworldly that night. It was as if the old cemetery held secrets we were not meant to uncover. After that incident, we decided to stay away from the cemetery, and even the bravest among us couldn't bring themselves to return. The experience had left its mark on us, a lingering sense of unease whenever we recalled that night. I had taken the job as a night guard at the cemetery, thinking it would be a quiet and uneventful gig. The graveyard was nestled on the outskirts of town, surrounded by thick woods and an eerie silence that only the dead could offer. My job was simple: patrol the grounds, make sure nothing seemed amiss, and keep an eye out for any potential trouble. One night, as I was doing my rounds, I found myself feeling unusually tired. The monotony of the job had started to take its toll on me, and my eyes grew heavy. Against my better judgment, I found a quiet spot in the security building and decided to rest my eyes for just a moment. But as fate would have it, that short moment of rest turned into something far more sinister. When I opened my eyes, the room was shrouded in darkness. Panic rushed through my veins as I realized I had fallen into a deep slumber and lost track of time. As I stumbled out of the security building, I noticed something that sent shivers down my spine. The door was slightly ajar. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to make sense of what had happened while I was asleep. Had someone broken in? Were they still lurking around? With trepidation, I cautiously stepped outside, my flashlight trembling in my hands. The graveyard was eerily quiet, the tombstones casting long shadows in the moonlight. My nerves were on edge, and every creaking branch seemed to echo like a gunshot. And then, I saw him. A figure lurking in the distance. My heart skipped a beat as I tried to make out the man's features, but the darkness masked his identity. My instincts kicked in, and I quietly moved towards the shadows, trying to get a better look. As I approached, my worst fears were confirmed. The man was trespassing in the cemetery. What could he possibly want in a graveyard in the dead of night? I held my breath, praying he wouldn't notice me. But luck wasn't on my side that night. The man turned and started heading in my direction. Panic consumed me, and I quickly retreated back towards the security building. My mind raced with questions. Was he dangerous? Did he have ill intentions? I dialed the police as quietly as I could, not wanting to alert the man to my presence. But as I glanced out of the window, he was gone, vanished into thin air, leaving nothing but the sound of my own heartbeat echoing in my ears. When the police arrived, I led them to the spot where I had seen the man, but there was no trace of him. All that remained were mysterious shoe prints in the soft earth. The police assured me they would investigate further, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered in the air. From that night on, I never let my guard down again. Every shift I worked at the cemetery was filled with tension and paranoia. I couldn't forget the haunting image of that mysterious intruder, and I wondered if he would ever return. So there we were, me and my buddies, a group of teenagers looking for some thrills and excitement. It was a dark and cloudy night, the kind that sets the perfect atmosphere for a spooky adventure. We had heard rumors about the local cemetery being haunted or something, and being the brave and curious kids that we were, we decided to sneak in and see for ourselves. Looking back, I wish we had just stayed home and played video games or something. But you know how it is? Curiosity gets the better of you. So we climbed over the old iron fence, and we were in. The place was eerily quiet, and the moon was hidden behind thick clouds, casting strange shadows on the tombstones. It was like being in a horror movie, and I could feel the adrenaline pumping through my veins. We were walking around, half scared and half excited, when we stumbled upon something that froze us in our tracks. There was this man, crouched down near one of the graves, digging away like there was no tomorrow. At first, we thought he was just another weirdo visiting the cemetery at night, maybe grieving or paying his respects. But as we got closer, we saw something that made our hearts stop. It looked like he was burying something big and wrapped in a dark cloth. My mind raced, and the thought that it could be a body crossed my mind. I mean, who buries something in a cemetery in the middle of the night? We were paralyzed with fear, but then one of my friends accidentally stepped on a twig, and it snapped loudly in the silence. That's when the man turned his head towards us, and I swear his eyes glowed like something out of a horror movie. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, and all I wanted to do was get the heck out of there. We didn't wait around to find out what was going on. We turned and ran like our lives depended on it, stumbling over gravestones and bushes in our haste to escape. We didn't stop running until we were safely back at our meeting spot outside the cemetery. We were all shaking and out of breath, and we knew we had to do something about what we had just witnessed. So we decided to call the police and tell them everything. I mean, they had to know about this, right? They might catch some criminal or something. When the police arrived, we showed them the spot where we had seen the man, and they started digging. I didn't want to watch, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. And sure enough, they found a body buried there just like we feared. I couldn't believe it. It was like something out of a horror movie, but it was real, right there in front of us. The police took our statements, and they thanked us for reporting it. But the thing is, the whole experience changed us. We couldn't sleep properly for weeks, and every little sound made us jump. So yeah, that's the story of how a night of spooky fun turned into a nightmare we'll never forget. I don't think any of us will ever look at cemeteries the same way again. And the worst part is, we still don't know who that man was or why he did what he did. It's a mystery that still haunts us to this day.